husband suddenly ghosted me and sent divorce papers for no reason. Years later, this happened. Hey Reddit, long-time lurker her but first-time poster. I feel like this story of mine, it's a very personal story, but I feel like it's something that is really worth sharing. My husband disappeared suddenly, ghosted me, and then sent divorce papers for no reason. When I thought we were happy, and then years later, he reappears. Some backstory, first of all. My name is Vivian, and I am a 34-year-old woman. My ex-husband's name is Jason, and he is a 35-old man. We've been married for about 3 years. We met while we were in college. I wasn't really looking to date back then, as I had just been out of a bad relationship. But he seemed really interested in me, and he was very nice, so I decided to give him a chance. Our first date was a mix of nerves and excitement, like stepping onto a roller coaster for the first time. Jason had this way of making me feel at ease, despite my jumbled thoughts and racing heart. We decided on a cozy Italian restaurant downtown, where the aroma of garlic and tomatoes welcomed us as we walked in. I remember how he smiled when he saw me, that genuine smile that reached his eyes and made me feel special. We talked about everything under the sun, from our favorite movies to our dreams for the future. There was never a dull moment, and laughter filled the air as we shared stories and jokes. The evening progressed, and I found myself drawn to his kindness and intelligence. He listened attentively, asked thoughtful questions, and made me feel like I could be myself without any pretense. It was refreshing, to say the least. By the end of the night, we both knew that this was just the beginning of something beautiful. Walking back to our cars, he held my hand, and in that simple gesture, I felt a connection that went beyond words. I was so thankful that I had given him a chance. For our second date, Jason surprised me with tickets to a local art exhibit, knowing my passion for creativity and expression. I still remember us wandering through the galleries. I couldn't help but admire his genuine interest in the artworks and the way he appreciated each piece for its unique beauty. We shared our thoughts on the various paintings and sculptures, discussing colors, meanings, and the emotions they evoked. It was fascinating to see how differently we interpreted certain pieces, yet found common ground in our appreciation for art's ability to stir something deep within us. After the exhibit, we strolled through a nearby park, enjoying the crisp evening air and the tranquil atmosphere. We talked about our families, childhood memories, and our hopes for the future. There was a sense of ease and comfort in our conversations, as if we had known each other for much longer than just a couple of dates. As the night drew to a close, Jason suggested grabbing dessert at a charming cafe nearby. We got slices of decadent cheesecake and cups of rich coffee. We continued to delve into our dreams and aspirations, sharing more of ourselves with each passing moment. By the end of the evening, I knew that Jason was someone special, someone I could envision building a life with. On our third date, Jason surprised me with a spontaneous road trip to the countryside. It was a beautiful sunny day, and the open road stretched out before us, promising adventure and new experiences. We started our journey early in the morning, the car filled with excitement and anticipation. Jason had packed a picnic basket with delicious treats, and we planned to find a scenic spot to enjoy our lunch amidst nature's beauty. As we drove, we played our favorite music and engaged in lively conversations about everything under the sun. From silly childhood memories to deep philosophical ponderings, our discussions flowed effortlessly. It was just easy. Our first stop was at a picturesque lake surrounded by lush greenery. We found a cozy spot under a tree, spread out a blanket, and savored our picnic delights while basking in the beauty and peacefulness of our surroundings. After our refreshing meal, we took a leisurely stroll along the lake shore, holding hands and sharing quiet moments of contentment. As the day progressed, we explored quaint villages, stopped at roadside attractions, and indulged in impromptu adventures. From sampling local delicacies to trying our hand at a friendly game of mini golf, every moment was fun and beautiful. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, we made our way back home, hearts full of happy memories and a growing certainty that our connection was something truly special. On our fourth date, Jason surprised me with a romantic evening under the stars. It was a clear night, with the moon casting a gentle glow over the city, creating a magical atmosphere perfect for our time together. Jason had reserved a table at a rooftop restaurant known for its breathtaking views. As we arrived, I couldn't help but be impressed by the stunning panorama of city lights twinkling below us. The ambiance was intimate yet lively, setting the stage for a memorable evening. We started our dinner with delightful appetizers, savoring each bite while engaging in meaningful conversations. Jason had a way of making me feel truly listened to, and our discussions ranged from our dreams and aspirations to our favorite books and movies. As the main course arrived, our connection deepened further as we shared personal stories and childhood memories. The laughter and warmth between us were palpable. We had this undeniable chemistry that seemed to grow stronger with each passing moment. After dinner, Jason suggested we take a stroll along the rooftop terrace. The cool night air was refreshing, and the view from above was simply breathtaking. We found a cozy corner with a comfortable seating area where we continued our conversation under the starlit sky. Time seemed to slip away as we talked about our hopes for the future, our shared values, and the deepening feelings we had for each other. The evening felt like a scene from a romantic movie, with every moment etched in my memory as something truly special. As the night drew to a close, Jason surprised me once again by presenting a bouquet of my favorite flowers. His thoughtful gesture touched my heart, and I knew in that moment that I was falling for him more deeply than I had ever imagined. And then after several months of dating and growing closer, Jason and I made the exciting decision to move in together. It was a big step in our relationship, but one that felt natural and right for both of us. We spent weeks searching for the perfect place that would be our shared sanctuary, a place where we could build our future together. Finally, we found a charming apartment in a vibrant neighborhood that we both loved. The process of moving in was both exhilarating and nerve-wracking. We sorted through our belongings, deciding what to keep, donate, or store. It was a time of merging our lives, blending our tastes and creating a space that reflected our combined personalities. As we settled into our new home, we discovered the joys and challenges of living together. We navigated daily routines, shared household responsibilities, and learned more about each other's habits and quirks. Despite the occasional differences and adjustments, moving in together strengthened our bond. We enjoyed cooking meals together, cozy evenings watching movies, and weekend adventures exploring our neighborhood. Our home became a place of comfort, laughter, and love. It was where we celebrated milestones, supported each other through challenges, and created cherished memories. After we graduated from college, Jason surprised me with a romantic proposal. It was a beautiful evening, and he took me to our favorite spot overlooking the city. With a heart full of love and excitement, he got down on one knee and asked me to marry him. I was overjoyed, and without hesitation, I said yes. It was a moment I had dreamed of, imagining spending the rest of my life with him by my side. However, we both agreed that before diving into wedding plans, we wanted to take some time to save up and plan for our future together. We knew that marriage would bring new responsibilities and expenses, so we wanted to be financially prepared. We set our goals, created a budget, and started saving diligently. It was a period of anticipation and anticipation, looking forward to the day when we could officially start our journey as husband and wife. During this time, we continued to deepen our bond, exploring new adventures, and building a strong foundation for our life together. We talked about our dreams, our aspirations, and what we wanted for our future family. Saving for our wedding was honestly more than just a financial goal. It was a symbol of our commitment and dedication to each other. It was a time of anticipation and excitement, knowing that our love was growing stronger with each passing day. The decision to get married was one we didn't take lightly. After Jason's heartfelt proposal and my enthusiastic yes, we knew we wanted our wedding to be a special celebration of our love and commitment. However, we also knew that it would take time and effort to plan the perfect day. It took us a while to save well enough for our wedding, and we started by creating a wedding budget, a detailed spreadsheet outlining all the expenses from venue rentals to floral arrangements and catering costs. It was eye-opening to see how quickly everything added up, but we were determined to stick to our budget and make smart financial decisions. Next came the venue search. We visited several locations from rustic barns to elegant ballrooms, weighing the pros and cons of each. Eventually, we found the perfect venue that matched our vision and accommodated our guest list comfortably. With the venue secured, we moved on to other crucial aspects like choosing a theme and color scheme. We wanted our wedding to reflect our personalities, so we opted for a romantic garden theme with soft pastel colors and floral accents. The guest list was another challenge. We wanted to include everyone important to us while also keeping the event intimate. Compromises had to be made, but in the end, we were happy with the mix of family and close friends who would share our special day. As the months flew by, we met with vendors, tasted cake samples, finalized the menu, and selected music playlists. It was a whirlwind of decision-making and excitement, with occasional moments of stress and doubt. One of the most memorable parts of the planning process was designing our wedding invitations. We wanted them to be elegant yet personal, so we worked with a talented designer to create custom invitations that reflected our love story. As the wedding day approached, there were inevitable moments of nerves and jitters. Did we forget anything? Would everything go smoothly? But we leaned on each other for support, knowing that no matter what, the day would be a beautiful celebration of our love and commitment to each other. Looking back, the wedding planning journey was challenging at times, but it brought us closer together and taught us valuable lessons about teamwork and compromise. In the end, seeing our vision come to life on our wedding day made it all worth it. When our wedding day finally came, I woke up with a mix of excitement and nervousness swirling in my stomach. I got ready. I was surrounded by my bridesmaids and family. I couldn't help but feel grateful for their love and support. The hours flew by in a blur of laughter, tears, and heartfelt moments as we prepared for the ceremony. When the time came to put on my wedding dress, I felt a rush of emotions. Looking at myself in the mirror, I couldn't believe this day had arrived. The dress was perfect, and I felt like a princess ready to meet her Prince Charming. As I walked down the aisle with my father by my side, I locked eyes with Jason, and everything else faded away. The love and happiness in his eyes mirrored my own, and I knew in that moment that we were meant to be together. The ceremony was beautiful, filled with heartfelt vows, music, and readings that reflected our love story. Our family and friends surrounded us, sharing in our joy and celebrating our union. After exchanging rings and sharing our first kiss as husband and wife, we walked back down the aisle together, hand in hand, beaming with happiness. The reception was a whirlwind of dancing, laughter, and love as we celebrated with our guests. One of the most memorable moments of the day was our first dance as a married couple. As we swayed to our favorite song, Lost in Each Other's Arms, I felt like the luckiest woman in the world to have Jason as my partner for life. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of joy and celebration. From cutting the cake to heartfelt speeches and toasts, every moment was filled with love and happiness. After our wedding, we had a beautiful honeymoon, which my parents generously paid for as a wedding gift. Jason and I returned home feeling like we were on cloud nine. Our marriage was thriving, filled with love and intimacy, and we made sure to have regular date nights to keep the romance alive. Everything seemed perfect until I found out I was pregnant. At first, it was a delightful surprise. We were overjoyed at the thought of starting a family together. We started planning for our future with our little one on the way, eagerly awaiting the arrival of our son, whom I'm going to call Vic for the sake of privacy. As the months went by, my pregnancy progressed smoothly, and Jason was incredibly supportive throughout. We decorated the nursery, attended parenting classes, and eagerly anticipated the day when our family would officially expand. Our dreams of parenthood were coming true, or so I thought at the time. My delivery date came and I gave birth, and at first it was all great. But as Vic grew and became a lively part of our lives, I noticed a shift in Jason's behavior. While he loved playing with Vic and being the fun, cool dad, he seemed to shy away from the responsibilities of parenting. Diaper changes, bath times, feeding, all of it fell on my shoulders alone. Even after multiple discussions and pleas for help, Jason didn't step up. It became apparent that he enjoyed the spotlight of being a good father when we had guests or family around. He would make an effort to engage with Vic and act like the perfect dad, but as soon as they left, he reverted to his old habits of leaving everything to me. I confronted him about this discrepancy, expressing my frustration and exhaustion at handling everything on my own. He apologized and promised to change, but unfortunately his words didn't translate into action. The cycle continued, and it started making me feel overwhelmed and increasingly resentful towards Jason's lack of involvement in parenting duties. However, as Vic reached the age of 2, a new challenge arose in our lives. Jason made a sudden decision to quit his job without consulting me beforehand. This came as a shock since we typically split all our bills and expenses evenly. When I confronted him about his abrupt resignation, he gave me vague excuses about hating his workplace and needing a change. Wanting to be a supportive wife, I encouraged him to find another job and assured him that I would manage the bills in the meantime. However, as weeks passed by, Jason still hadn't secured a new job. I found myself shouldering the financial responsibilities alone. I was really grateful that our home was a gift from my parents, and that spared us the burden of rent, so all I had to pay were bills. Despite Jason claiming that he was actively job hunting, it became evident that Jason was not putting in the effort. He spent most of his time gaming and neglecting household chores. I couldn't even rely on him to take care of Vic, let alone babysit him for short periods. His lack of contribution led me to hire a babysitter even when he was at home, as I couldn't trust him to prioritize our son's well-being. The stress of juggling work, finances, and household responsibilities started weighing heavily on me. As time went on, Jason's distance from both me and our family grew more pronounced. Our intimacy dwindled, and I could feel the strain weighing heavily on our relationship. Confronting him about his laziness and lack of involvement only led to more excuses and deflection on his part. It reached a point where I found myself actively avoiding him within our own home. One day, after dropping Vic off at my parents' house for some much-needed help, I returned home from work expecting to find Jason there. However, he was nowhere to be seen, a habit he had developed recently without informing me of his whereabouts. I had my suspicions that he was cheating on me, but I was too exhausted from shouldering the household responsibilities to dwell on it too much. Hours turned into days, and Jason still hadn't returned home. I couldn't file a police report as it hadn't been 24 hours yet, so I resorted to calling him repeatedly. Each attempt went unanswered, with no response to my text messages either. Concern turned to worry, and worry to fear for his safety. After a few days of his absence, I decided to involve the authorities and filed a missing persons report. It was then that Jason finally responded to my messages, belittling me for taking such action and insisting that he was safe, but just didn't want to return home. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. My husband had ghosted me, and had left me in a state of confusion, hurt, and abandonment. For weeks, I was in a fog of confusion and deep sadness. My husband had ghosted me, leaving behind a painful revelation that he was with another woman and had no intention of coming back. He had told me that he was staying with his mistress and that he would be sending divorce papers, and that hit me like a ton of bricks. I felt numb, lost, and unsure of how to navigate this sudden turn of events. Thankfully, my mom came to stay with me during this tumultuous time. Her presence and support were a lifeline, especially in caring for Vicky. Without her, I don't know how I would have coped. In those initial weeks, I drifted between numbness and profound sadness. However, a realization slowly dawned on me. Maybe this was for the best. Jason's betrayal made it clear that he wasn't the person I thought he was, and perhaps it was better to be rid of him. Strangely, my financial burden decreased significantly after he left, allowing me to focus more on taking care of myself and Vic. I made the decision to sign the divorce papers when they arrived. It was a symbolic closure to a chapter I never expected to end this way. I started therapy and it became my refuge, helping me process the whirlwind of emotions and rebuild myself. Vic, too, was affected by the absence of his father. It was a confusing time for him, but I did my best to provide comfort and stability despite the upheaval. When the divorce papers finally arrived, I didn't hesitate to sign them. It was liberating to see that Jason had waived any claim to custody and expressed no desire to see Vicky. It was a clear sign that cutting ties with him was the right decision for both me and my son. After sending back the signed papers, I never heard from Jason again. And strangely, that silence brought a sense of peace and closure that I desperately needed. After Jason vanished from our lives, I decided it was time to focus on myself. I landed a better job with a nice pay raise, which meant I could afford a new car and luxuries. I also hit the gym regularly, shedding the stress weight and feeling better about myself. After I had my son and Jason quit his job, I just let myself go because I was so busy trying to provide for my family, I wasn't even thinking about myself. Now that Jason was gone, taking care of my skin and mental health became priorities too. Therapy helped me deal with the emotional fallout, and I started enjoying simple self-care routines. All these efforts paid off. I felt confident and happy again. Vic, my little champ, adjusted surprisingly well despite Jason's absence. He was just a toddler, so I think our stable and loving home helped him through it. Life post-divorce wasn't easy, but I turned it into an opportunity to grow stronger, inside and out. As a year went by, I had convinced myself that dating was off the table. I was content focusing on work and raising Vic. However, fate had other plans when I met Richard, my boss. It felt strange at first, considering my no dating at work policy, but Richard's kindness and charm won me over. We started with casual conversations that quickly turned into daily chats. Our shared interests and easygoing conversations made it hard not to develop feelings for him. Despite my reservations, we began going out outside of work, dinners, movies, and other fun activities. I was cautious about introducing Richard to Vic, wanting to be sure before involving my son. Richard, being understanding, never rushed me into anything. He was just 2 years older and had never been married, making our connection feel even more special. Richard shared with me that he had focused on achieving financial stability during his 20s, which left little room for dating experiences. Despite his success, he admitted to not having much romantic experience. However, I didn't mind his lack of dating history because I genuinely liked him for who he was. As our relationship progressed, I felt comfortable opening up to Richard about my past with Jason and how he had ghosted me and left without a word, sending divorce papers later. Richard was shocked and genuinely apologetic, showing me a level of empathy and understanding that I hadn't experienced before. His reaction further strengthened our bond and made me feel more secure in our budding relationship. On our first date, Richard took me to a cozy Italian restaurant in the heart of the city. The ambiance was warm, with dim lighting and soft music playing in the background. We sat across from each other, sharing stories and laughter over a delicious meal of pasta and wine. Richard was a great conversationalist, asking me about my interests and my life in general. He listened attentively, showing genuine interest in getting to know me better. I found myself opening up to him more than I had expected, feeling comfortable and at ease in his presence. After dinner, we took a leisurely stroll through the city streets, enjoying the cool evening breeze and each other's company. Richard was a gentleman, offering his arm as we walked and making me feel cared for and special. As the night came to an end, Richard walked me to my car, and we exchanged a gentle hug before saying goodnight. I honestly couldn't help but smile as I drove home, feeling excited about the possibility of something special blossoming between us. On our second date, Richard surprised me with tickets to a live jazz performance at a local club. I was thrilled as jazz music is one of my favorites, and I appreciated his thoughtful gesture. We arrived at the club and found a cozy table near the stage. The atmosphere was lively, with the smooth tunes of jazz filling the air. Richard and I chatted between sets, discussing everything from music to travel and life aspirations. During one particularly soulful performance, Richard reached for my hand, and we shared a quiet moment listening to the music. It was a simple yet intimate gesture that made me feel a strong connection with him. After the jazz session, we walked around the city streets, enjoying the vibrant nightlife. Richard shared stories from his travels, and I shared some of my favorite spots in the city. We laughed and joked, and it felt so special. A few months into dating, I felt it was the right time for Richard to meet Vic, my son. I was nervous yet hopeful, hoping they would get along well. When Richard met Vic, it was like magic. Vic warmed up to him instantly, and Richard was so kind and attentive to him. They bonded over simple things like playing games, reading books, and going on little adventures together. Seeing them interact and form a genuine connection filled my heart with joy and relief. Richard showed genuine interest in Vic's interests and hobbies, and Vic adored spending time with him. It was a beautiful sight to see, and it reassured me that Richard was not just someone I was dating, but potentially a significant part of our lives. Their bond grew stronger with each passing day, and I couldn't be happier seeing them both happy and content in each other's company. After 2.5 years of dating, Richard proposed to me, and I happily accepted. We were both over the moon with excitement and started planning our dream wedding. It was going to be a beautiful celebration of our love, surrounded by our closest family and friends. My parents were thrilled that I had found happiness again. They could see how much Richard cared for me, and they welcomed him into our family with open arms. My friends were also ecstatic for us, showering us with love and support as we embarked on this new chapter together. Despite the joyous occasion, the shadow of my past with Jason still lingered. No one had heard about what happened between us, but it didn't matter anymore. I had moved on, and Richard was my present and future. We dove into wedding planning with enthusiasm, choosing the perfect venue, selecting the most exquisite decorations, and creating a guest list that included everyone who mattered to us. It was shaping up to be a truly beautiful and memorable day. As the wedding date approached, I couldn't help but feel a sense of peace and contentment. Richard had brought so much happiness into my life, and I was grateful for every moment we shared together. The past was behind me, and the future looked bright and promising. As Richard and I prepared for our wedding, he suggested that we move in together. After careful consideration, I agreed, knowing that it would bring us closer and make our bond even stronger. So I packed Vic's and I belongings and moved into Richard's beautiful home. His house was everything I could have dreamed of and more. It had a cozy ambiance filled with warmth and love. Vic quickly adjusted to his new surroundings, delighted by the space and the new adventures that awaited him. With my own house now vacant, I decided to rent it out. It became a source of passive income for me, which I started saving in a separate account. My goal was to build a college fund for Vic's future, ensuring that he would have the best education possible when the time came. Living with Richard brought us even closer together. We shared everyday moments, from cooking meals together to relaxing evenings on the couch. Our relationship blossomed, and I knew in my heart that I had made the right decision to move in with him. I was now even thankful for the fact that Jason had left me. On the day of our wedding, everything felt surreal and magical. The sun was shining brightly, casting a golden hue over the venue, as if nature itself was celebrating our union. The air was filled with excitement and anticipation, tinged with a touch of nervousness and joy. As I walked down the aisle in my elegant white gown, adorned with delicate lace and shimmering beads, my heart raced with emotions. Richard stood at the altar, looking dashing in his tailored suit, his eyes filled with love and adoration as he watched me approach. The ceremony was a beautiful blend of heartfelt vows, exchanged rings, and promises of a lifetime together. Our families and friends surrounded us, sharing in our happiness and blessing our union with their love and support. After we exchanged our vows and were pronounced husband and wife, we sealed our commitment with a tender kiss, which ignited a wave of applause and cheers from our loved ones. LOL. It was a moment of pure bliss, knowing that we were embarking on a new chapter of our lives together. The reception was a lively celebration filled with laughter, music, and dancing. We shared heartfelt speeches, toasted to our love and future, and enjoyed delicious food and drinks with our guests. Our wedding day was a dream come true, a day filled with love, laughter, and cherished memories that we would carry with us for the rest of our lives. After our magical wedding, Richard and I embarked on a dreamy honeymoon that exceeded all our expectations. We traveled to a picturesque destination, surrounded by stunning landscapes and serene beaches. It was a time of pure bliss and romance, where we enjoyed each other's company without any worries or distractions. Returning home, we settled back into our life together, filled with love and happiness. A year after our wedding, our relationship was stronger than ever. We made sure to have date nights every week, nurturing our connection and keeping the spark alive. Our intimacy was amazing, and our bond continued to deepen with each passing day. One of the most beautiful aspects of our life together was the relationship between Richard and Vic. Richard embraced his role as a father figure with warmth and love, and Vic adored him in return. Their bond grew stronger with time, and Vic started to see Richard as his dad, which filled my heart with joy and gratitude. However, a month or two ago, our peaceful life was interrupted by a message from one of our tenants. They informed me that a man had come looking for me and Vic, mentioning that he was given my number. I immediately knew it must be Jason, my ex-husband. While I was initially angry that they had given him my contact information, I understood that he would have found a way to reach out regardless. This unexpected encounter with Jason stirred up mixed emotions in me. On one hand, I was grateful for the life I had built with Richard and the happiness we shared. On the other hand, seeing Jason's persistence reminded me of the past and the challenges I had overcome. It was a reminder of how far I had come, and I was also worried about what the hell Jason wanted. About 2 days after receiving the message from the tenant about Jason's visit, I received another message from my usual number. It was evident that it was Jason trying to reach out, so I chose not to respond and ignored the messages. However, he persisted, bombarding me with apologies, pleas to talk, and promises to explain everything. His messages ranged from expressing regret to sharing various stories and excuses. As the messages kept coming, Jason escalated to relentless calls, which I also ignored. I immediately informed Richard about the situation, and he advised me to hear Jason out, to listen to what he had to say. Honestly, it was Richard's suggestion that made me consider giving Jason a chance to explain. If it weren't for him, I would have likely blocked Jason or continued to ignore him altogether. With Richard's support, I finally replied to Jason's messages and asked him what he wanted. He expressed his apologies and expressed a desire to meet in person to talk things through. He claimed that he could explain everything and that it had been a while since we last spoke. He even inquired about Vic's well-being, which caught me off guard. Initially hesitant, I decided to agree to the meeting, but with conditions. I informed Jason that I would be accompanied by my husband Richard, and that we would meet in a public place. To my surprise, Jason was shocked to hear that I was married, and asked when I had gotten married. I firmly told him that it was none of his business, and he eventually agreed to the meeting with Richard present. We agreed to meet in a popular cafe in 2 days' time, ensuring a neutral and familiar environment. Despite feeling nervous about the upcoming meeting, I was also curious to hear what Jason had to say after all this time. 2 days after, and the time finally came Lowell, we finally headed out to meet Jason. My nerves were on edge, mixed with a bubbling anger at the thought of him disrupting the peace I had worked so hard to achieve. Richard, always the calm presence, reassured me and suggested we listen to what Jason had to say before leaving. Upon arriving at the cafe, Jason was already there, looking disheveled and worn out. I couldn't help but feel a slight sense of satisfaction seeing him in such a state, considering the turmoil he had caused in my life. He seemed surprised at my appearance, clearly not expecting me to look as well as I did. It was a testament to the positive changes I had made in my life since he left. As we sat down, Jason's demeanor turned sour, especially towards Richard, which I found somewhat amusing given his own actions. He started with apologies, begging for forgiveness, and expressing regret for everything he had done. He apologized to both me and Vic, but I had long forgiven him and told him so. His surprise at my forgiveness quickly turned into a request for us to reconcile. I couldn't help but burst into laughter at the absurdity of his request. I made it clear that I had moved on and was happily married to Richard. Jason seemed genuinely taken aback, unable to believe that I had truly moved on. I reminded him of the pain he had caused by ghosting me, and his request to get back together seemed even more ludicrous. I laughed at the irony of his plea, telling him that I couldn't believe he had the audacity to ask after everything that had transpired. During our meeting, Jason continued to plead, reminding me of the good times we had shared. However, I firmly brought him back to reality by recounting the pain and betrayal he had caused when he abandoned me without a word. It felt like a huge disrespect for him to reminisce about our past in front of my husband Richard, who was my present and future. Despite my anger and disbelief at his audacity, I couldn't help but be curious about what had happened in his life during the years he was gone. When I asked about his mistress, he shared a pitiful story of being used and taken advantage of for years. He explained that he had taken on the role of caring for her children, though they weren't his own biological kids. It was shocking to hear, and I couldn't help but wonder about the complexity of his situation. Jason revealed that his mistress had cheated on him multiple times and had now moved on with someone else, and that she was kicking him out, which had now left him in a vulnerable and desperate state. It became clear that he needed help, but I knew that I couldn't be the one to provide it. Despite everything, I had moved on and built a new life for myself and Vic with Richard by my side. I told Jason that I couldn't offer him the support he sought, and that he needed to figure things out on his own. After I made it clear that I couldn't offer Jason the support he wanted, he grew increasingly angry and started raising his voice. He blamed me for not fighting hard enough for him when he left, insisting that I should have searched for him. It was absurd considering he was a grown man responsible for his own actions. Now that he was facing the consequences, he was trying to shift the blame onto others. He demanded shared custody of Vic, but I firmly refused, reminding him that he had willingly given me sole custody in the divorce papers. I pointed out that he didn't even have a stable living situation, given that his mistress was kicking him out. How could I trust him with Vic if he couldn't even provide a stable environment? Jason's anger escalated, and it seemed like he was on the verge of a tantrum, so Richard and I took Vic and left. Thankfully, Richard stayed calm and didn't intervene. He respected me enough to let me handle the situation on my own, for which I was grateful. Jason's attempts to contact me afterward were futile as I blocked him from reaching out. He tried reaching out to my parents and friends, but they all stood by me and refused to entertain him. In the end, Jason was left alone, facing the consequences of his actions without anyone to turn to for support. Don't cheat people. It is absolutely not worth it.